Hello and happy day. Today we're kind of build on something that was spoken about before. We talked about our layers of being, how there's not just the physical body, and we can recognize that by just contemplating the different aspects of us. But what we want to talk about today is the thing that we care about the most, or if we don't even recognize we care about the most, we care about it the most. And that is our emotional states, that aspect of us that feels, the emotional body. And so rather than talking about all of the different aspects of us, we're just going to break down these three. So the body, we know this, the emotions, and thoughts. So we recognize that we have the thoughts, and our thoughts can affect our emotions. And we're going to touch on this as well, the will. So we know that our will has the ability to direct our thinking, and ultimately our will has dominion over all of this, right? We will with our body to move. So you don't just think your hand to move. I'm not like consciously thinking about this. It is just the use of my will that allows my hand to move. Same with everything that is done kind of automatically. We just will our way into movement, into life. And so what we want to talk about is we often try to either will our emotions, or we try to think our emotions into better, or we rely on outside things to determine how we feel. But what this is illustrating, so imagine these as just little pillars, which the body, so we often think that we should have the thoughts to feel good, or we should have something outside to feel good. But the body and the thoughts are kind of pillars between which the emotions respond. And so we want to see that this is a two-way street. So we know that if we're feeling good, should have this the other way, that if we're feeling good, then it affects how our body moves, right? Because I want it this way, because it's like thoughts, top to bottom, but you get it, that when we feel good, our body moves differently, our body behaves differently. So let's say like when we're happy, our shoulders are up and back, we're standing tall, we're kind of bouncing around. If we're like in a peaceful state of mind, then we're just like content, the body's moving at a very slowly and fluid type of way. If we are, even on the negative side, if we're angry, you can see how our bodies, you feel the tenseness in the body. Depressed, you might just feel like the shoulders down, head down, not speaking very quickly, not moving very quickly, just like not feeling good. So the body responds to the emotional states. But then we also know, so it's a two-way street. So if our body behaves a certain way, we can affect our emotions. And that is, so like, if you know, you may be familiar with the popular study in the I guess we would call it a study, that was done with the power poses. It's like they had people just stand in like a victory pose, or like a Superman pose. And if they just held that for 2 minutes, they literally started to change their neurochemistry. They started to change even the hormones, like testosterone even started to rise whenever they just held their body in those poses. So what that proves to us is that it's not just our thinking that affects our emotion, but our body affects the emotions as well. So we can use our body in a way that allows our emotions to feel good. So if we want to just practice those power poses, we can do that. If we want to practice, and again with the idea of meditation too, that is why when we want to calm the body and calm the thoughts, and naturally the emotions will follow suit because they are sandwiched in between. The emotions are trying to jump back and forth because thought thinks fast, the body moves slow, and the emotions are caught in between, right? And so the emotional body almost has to start to listen. When these are in harmony, it almost has to listen. Haven't you noticed that if you just sit down, and even if it's not deliberately attempting to meditate, you just sit down, you grab a cup of tea, and you're just like, I'm just going to let my thoughts be at ease. And then you notice like, I feel at peace. Because the body's at peace, thoughts are at peace, then the emotions follow suit. So we don't need to force our will into trying to make this happen. We can just will our body easily into a relaxed position, and we can will our thoughts. But the same holds true for virtually any emotion that we want to attempt, that we want to feel in the moment. How do you use your body in that way? Do you want to feel energized? Well, why don't you practice jumping around, doing a little movement? And this is too why we see that even in the practice of yoga, one of the aspects of yoga is use of the body. So yoga, just to clarify, that yoga is not just the physical exercises. That is a component of yoga. That is brought because yoga means union, right? So we want union, all of us. So our physical self, our emotional self, our mental self, our spiritual self. We are seeking union. That is what the true essence of yoga is about, union with the all. And that is why they have physical practices. And the same thing with like Qigong. So there's movement, so the physical body, and it is working with the emotional body as well, and it practices getting the mental state in tranquility, into balance, into harmony with all of us. So we see that in these other practices, that's there for a reason, because our body can affect our emotions. So we don't need to go into those in-depth practices. They obviously have benefit. That's why they've been around for thousands of years. But even just from our kind of basic minded approach to this, we can just figure out what is the emotion that I want to experience and how do I use my body when I am experiencing them, when I have experienced them in the past. You'll notice that if you want to feel confidence, you probably stand up taller. If you want to feel happy, just use your face, look at yourself and smile. It is shown too that if you just smile at yourself, it can cure depression. They did studies on this as well. They have found that if they just took manic depressants and had them smile at themselves in the mirror for 20 minutes a day, they relieve themselves of their depression. That is the power of the mind, but it's working in harmony with the body. And ultimately, again, what we want is to feel good. We want this emotions to be elevated. We want to vibrate higher. We want to feel good. So why not use all the tools, the resources that are before us and achieving that good state, that high, vibrant, emotional state? So simple as that. Figure out how you're using your body, and if you notice yourself not feeling good, looking like this, then snap out of it. Stand tall, make a big smile, do something wild and goofy that makes you smile, that makes you happy. Because if you force the smile initially, you may find out that you can't help but to smile naturally. So that is that. Another little idea of how we can get these emotions right using both the body and the thoughts, and just a little bit of will to get the body into the right state, to get the emotions into the right state. That's that. I hope you find some value in this, and I shall talk to you soon.